FBI, Bill Cosby, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Three names you'd never expect to collide until now, because it turns out America's once beloved TV dad may have been involved in something far darker than pudding pops. We're talking allegations of murder plots, secret schemes, and a story so wild it feels ripped from a crime thriller. This isn't your average celebrity scandal. This is high-stakes conspiracy, Hollywood secrets, and a jaw-dropping twist that will make you say, "Wait, did I just hear that right?" Buckle up, because the truth behind this one will leave you speechless. Now, I know what you're thinking, Theo. From The Cosby Show? Yep, the sweater-wearing, wholesome sitcom son America loved. But if the FBI's leaked files are true, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's story takes a terrifying turn. He didn't just accidentally drown in some tropical paradise. No, according to newly surfaced documents, Bill Cosby himself may have orchestrated a plan. Dark, calculated, and criminal. Why? Because Malcolm allegedly knew too much. And in Hollywood, knowing too much can be a death sentence. Officially, the report said tragic accident. Unofficially, what happened before, during, and after turns this from a sad loss into a chilling, Netflix-worthy conspiracy thriller. Bill Cosby, once America's sweater-wearing, Jell-O pitching father figure, is no stranger to controversy. We're talking lawsuits, criminal charges, and a fall from grace so steep it could be its own Greek tragedy. But apparently, that wasn't enough. Allegedly, Cosby didn't just want to win Emmys, he wanted to write his own dark, true crime script. This is the story they never expected to get out. And once you hear it, you'll never look at America's TV dad the same way again. Additionally, he cast his own co-star from The Cosby Show, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the person who portrayed Theo Huxtable, the endearing, likable youngster who only wanted to pass math class according to recently revealed FBI papers. Yes, him. This is when it becomes more sinister than Cosby's coffee order. Cosby personally planned a scheme to kill Malcolm, according to the FBI's so-called confirmation, which incidentally surfaced online like an uninvited wedding crasher. This is not the same as firing him from the reboot. I mean, eradicate forever. Why? Because Malcolm was said to have dirt, and not just dirt from backstage rumors. According to these enigmatic, undoubtedly real sources, Malcolm had discovered a file, not a manila folder, not a PDF, but a full-fledged hard drive of doom containing decades worth of tabloid gold secrets. If it leaked, it could transform Cosby's already damaged reputation into a career obituary written in bold, all caps, 70-point font. Wait for it, and payoffs unreported events. An explosive list of names that would require a hazmat suit for TMZ to even open. This is when the tropical twist comes into play. Depending on how dramatic you want to be, Malcolm is either invited or lured to a private business retreat in Costa Rica. The cover story is about a secret endeavor that involves networking, charity work, and getting back in touch with old pals. In actuality, it was the ideal environment for the kind of mishap that can only be executed in the presence of powerful waves. Half of the witnesses were given more than their yearly wage to remember, and the CCTV cameras are inexplicably offline. Nothing. Imagine this. Malcolm on a beach at sunset, perhaps enjoying a fruity beverage from a coconut while gazing out over the water. The faint crunch of footfall in the sand behind him. He turns to see a half smile, a handshake, and a familiar face. Then two males suddenly show up. Regardless of the topic of their talk, it ended with Malcolm plunging into the waves in a situation that would have made a Scooby-Doo villain blush. Tragic accidental drowning was now the official narrative submitted by the local authorities. Easy, tidy, and file ending. Not, however, because a few weeks later, an FBI whistleblower inexplicably revealed a package of surveillance images, transcripts, and internal notes that paint a very different picture. Agents purport to have traced a series of text messages down to Cosby's close circle in these so-called papers. Oh, but it gets better. One of them, and I promise you couldn't make this up, just says, "Make it look like an accident. No one talks." According to another source, there is audio, yes, audio of Cosby's voice, crystal clear, saying something like, "He's got to go. If he talks, I'm finished." It's unclear if the audio is authentic, artificial intelligence AI generated, or lifted from a long-lost Cosby Show episode. But let's face it, the idea is enough to light the fuse and light it in the court of public opinion. Yes, it did. Hours after the leak, Twitter was essentially in flames. Hashtag Cosby conspiracy, hashtag justice for Malcolm, Hashtag Sweatergate 2005. Everyone had an opinion, some of whom were incensed, from self-described Hollywood TRS on TikTok to old sitcom performers. Dark jokes about America's father burying his TV son in a watery grave were being made by some. Naturally, some people vowed that they had always known there was more to the story. The internet is that. Theories were rife on entertainment blogs in the meanwhile. Malcolm had been preparing to release a candid book, according to one source. Another said he was in negotiations to be on a certain incendiary documentary about predators in Hollywood, which would have placed Cosby back in the news for all the wrong reasons. Then came the most improbable of all the theories, that all of this was a sophisticated publicity gimmick for a brand new drama series. If it is, spoiler alert, someone is being sued in next century. Let's not pretend, however, that this is merely a wild internet rumor. The so-called FBI files purported data presents a picture that is so precise and particular that it either depicts the most complex fake news effort in history or something very genuine and terrible was going on behind the scenes. We are discussing images of Cosby's private jet that was logged in Costa Rica during Malcolm's trip. Large, inexplicable payments to offshore accounts linked to security experts are documented in banking records. The night before he passed away, Malcolm's Instagram account inexplicably removed a post with a simple message: "If I don't make it back, chilling, right?" But here's the real deal. For weeks, not a single mainstream media covered the issue in spite of everything, which naturally further strengthened the belief on the internet that a top-level cover-up was taking place. Because, let's face it, truth is what matters. Attorneys walk, and money talks in Hollywood. Truth, however, takes a long vacation in a place where there is no extradition treaty. We'll go into further detail in the following section. We are discussing public reactions that will make you laugh and cry simultaneously, the complete disintegration of the scandal, and the so-called anonymous sources whose claims are so delicious that you would think they were trying out for a soap opera. We're only getting started, so if you thought this was bad, get some popcorn. So, the scene is set, an unintentional drowning that has a fishier odor than the ocean in which it occurred. An A-list comedy star is accused of pulling the strings in an FBI leak that sounds like the scenario of a late-night crime documentary. However, you know what turns a domestic scandal into one that makes me want to binge watch every YouTube theory video? Particulars. We have all the details too. The so-called disclosed incident timeline comes first. This was no chance accident on a Costa Rican bright day. Oh no! Our completely anonymous FBI insider, who we will refer to as Agent Latte, claims that they spend half of their time getting expensive coffee and the other half leaking secrets. The strategy for this operation was similar to that of Ocean's 11. Get Malcolm out of the country as the first step. Malcolm may have been invited under the pretense of a charity networking weekend. According to the data, one of Cosby's close acquaintances, who has reportedly appeared in suspiciously similar controversies in the past, is said to have conveyed the invitation. Create the ideal cover tale as the second step. The Costa Rican press had been prepared for a celebrity charity beach cleanup event before Malcolm had even touched down. It's funny because the incident never took place. A title and an empty beach, no pictures, no news releases, no volunteer records. The night before is step 3. This is where the frightening part begins. Malcolm is said to have met with 2 men on the hotel balcony on surveillance footage from a nearby resort that somehow escaped the official investigation. They converse for nearly an hour. Malcolm seems clearly furious at one point, raises his hands in the air, and turns to leave. The men remain seated and converse in silence before departing in a car that is registered to a shell corporation that is subsequently connected to Cosby's financial records. Step 4. Malcolm was spotted eating breakfast by himself the morning of the accident. He appeared agitated and kept looking at his phone, according to several witnesses. 10:43 a.m. He got a text message. 10:45 a.m. He headed toward the beach after leaving the resort, carrying a towel over his shoulder. Prior to the drowning, that was the final verified sighting. The post-event craziness is my particular favorite part. 3 things occurred within an hour of Malcolm's body being discovered. First, the drowning was declared an accident by the local police. No suspicion of foul play. 2. A sympathy statement that sounded suspiciously pre-written was released by the U.S. Embassy in Costa Rica. 3. Cosby's private aircraft was seen taking off from a local airport. Is it a coincidence? Perhaps. However, are you aware of what the internet has to say about Hollywood coincidences? They are non-existent. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and pretty much every other digital platform burst like the Game of Thrones season finale as soon as the FBI leak was made public. TikTokers were releasing analysis videos with dramatic background music before things got ugly. They would zoom in on hazy images of FBI documents and point at them as if they had just discovered the Zapruder film. With 8.3 million views, one particularly popular video features Cosby side by side at a comedy club in 1991 with the purported audio leak from FBI records. Although it sounds legitimate, the developer maintains that the voice is a 94% match, which, as far as I can tell, is never an actual measurement used by any reliable source. In the meantime, Twitter had a field day as comments were flooded with individuals claiming, "Yep, that's him, no doubt." A few users were truly appalled. If this is accurate, then all of our preconceived notions about Cosby were false. Others don't. A twist in the plot. The true killer was the sweater. Conspiracies threads on Reddit. Ignore it. You could waste 3 days reading ideas about everything from Malcolm being set to testify against a Hollywood elite ring to this being a CIA ploy to divert attention from something more serious. I'll give you juicy anonymous sources now, and if you've spent enough time online, you know that these are the main ingredients of any phony but amusing scandal. The first source is the former bodyguard. This man says that in the late 1990s and early 2000s, he handled security for Cosby. He claims that Malcolm's name had been on Cosby's short list of those who knew too much for years. Now, was he being literal when he said that he heard Cosby remark, "If Theo ever turns on me, I'll turn off his lights"? Who knows? The bodyguard, however, maintains that he wasn't kidding. The Hollywood Insider is the second source. The producer who says Malcolm was in negotiations to be featured on a huge Netflix documentary that uncovered hidden scandals in 80s and 90-second sitcom culture is my favorite. According to the producer, Malcolm possessed indisputable proof of actions that would have irrevocably ruined Cosby's already deteriorating reputation. For some reason, the project was halted 2 weeks prior to Malcolm's passing. The third source is a local bartender who claims to have witnessed Malcolm quarrel with a man wearing a brightly colored shirt on the beach just hours before he passed away. The man, according to her, was older, wore sunglasses, and pretended to be the owner of the establishment. After seeing a picture of Cosby's associate, she remarked, "That's him." These leaked documents have been screenshotted, uploaded, and examined more times than the Zapruder movie. The scandal's focal point is now one page in particular, a set of bullet points under the containment strategy topic. The points were as follows: remove subject from U.S. jurisdiction, establish plausible accident scenario, neutralize loose ends. What is this? A spy novel? Oh, and let's not forget the alleged bank transfer receipts. The internet grabbed hold of that last point like a dog with a chew toy. The problem is that not everyone is buying it. Some, including some mainstream journalists, are calling this the most complex hoax in the history of celebrity gossip. One shows a $250,000 wire transfer from an account connected to Cosby's business empire to an unidentified consultant just 2 days prior to Malcolm's death, and another shows a $75,000 payment to a public relations firm the day after. In the midst of all this chaos, you have Malcolm's fans, people who grew up watching him on TV, who are now questioning everything. They claim that the FBI documents are full of formatting errors, outdated logos, and inconsistencies that make them obvious fakes. But the believers, oh, they're doubling down. For every debunk article that appears, there are a dozen TikToks claiming the debunk is just part of the cover-up. And that's where the tension is at the moment. Half the world believes we're looking at a heartless Hollywood conspiracy, while the other half believes we're looking at the most heinous internet prank in history. Was his career really slowed down by bad luck, or was he secretly blacklisted for what he knew? Was this trip to Costa Rica a coincidence or a setup? You better grab your tinfoil hats, people, because if even half of these accusations are true, the fallout will be more than just the death of one actor. It will involve high-level investigations, legal firestorms, and the kind of reputational collapse that makes headlines for months. But in this video, in the next part, we go nuclear. We've heard from the anonymous insiders with just enough ambiguous details to make you wonder about everything. We've gone through the accidental drowning that somehow feels more staged than a reality TV reunion. And now we're at the messy part where things start to get messy. The aftermath, the cleanup, and the fallout. Trust me, this one has more fallout than a bad spray tan in the rain are what really cause chaos in scandals like this. First, there's the legal buzz. The FBI leak was only 24 hours old when people close to the investigation began speculating that the Department of Justice was reviewing materials. Within days, online petitions began to appear. Justice for Malcolm reached 1.2 million signatures in its first week, helped along by every celebrity who has ever shared a mysterious black and white Instagram story about the truth coming to light. You know it's serious when the words reviewing materials appear in a press leak. It's government speaks for, we're either about to make an arrest or make this disappear forever. Suddenly, you have late-night hosts making jokes, serious segments on daytime talk shows, and tabloids running front pages that read like rejected Law and Order scripts. Then came the lawsuits, or at least the threat of them. Hashtags like hashtag Cosby cover-up and hashtag Theo deserve better went viral around the world. One unnamed lawyer reportedly told a TMZ stringer, if even one piece of this is true, it's the biggest celebrity murder for hire case since the 90s. Of course, Cosby's camp wasn't just sitting back and letting this narrative build. Rumors began to circulate that Malcolm's family was working with a group of well-known wrongful death lawyers, the kind that wear $5,000 suits, smile like sharks, and have business cards that simply say, "We win." Nope, within 48 hours of the leak, William H. Cosby Jr.'s office released a strongly worded statement denying everything and calling the reports malicious attempts to destroy Mr. Cosby's legacy, which, let's face it, is like trying to destroy a building that is already mostly in ruins. However, the denial did not stop the avalanche. Oh, you're saying it didn't happen? Interesting. Must mean it did happen. This is the Strand effect, but with extra references to pudding. Meanwhile, in Washington, an oversight committee, the kind you only hear about when something has gone terribly wrong, allegedly asked for copies of all the documents pertaining to case File 149. Then there's the money trail. Do you recall those suspicious bank transfers? Internet detectives went into full CSI spreadsheet mode, and within a week, TikTok accountants, apparently real, were creating diagrams with arrows, circles, and highlighted boxes that showed how money allegedly moved through 3 offshore accounts before ending up with a consultant in Miami. That's bureaucratic code for someone who just lit a fire under this. The wildest twist was when a former FBI agent, now a security consultant who appears on cable news whenever a high-profile crime occurs, went on record to say, "In my professional opinion, the timing and circumstances of this incident are highly inconsistent with an accidental drowning." Sure enough, that consultant was photographed at the same resort where Malcolm stayed just 2 days before his death. In just 48 hours, that clip received 22 million views. A streaming service that still carried Cosby's show reruns quietly pulled them, replacing the slot with Golden Girls reruns. Cosby's already shaky reputation took another sharp turn when comedy clubs canceled tribute nights and his name was removed from a college's Hall of Fame wall. Now, let's talk public opinion, because once the internet decides you're guilty, you're done. Ironically, that block of reruns received the highest ratings in a decade, and brands with no affiliation to the case began to tweet ambiguous statements such as "We oppose all forms of violence." The rapid involvement of laundry detergent firms is a sign that a scandal has gone radioactive. However, other celebrities had the strongest responses. Actors on the A-list who had collaborated with Malcolm and Cosby shared cryptic tweets. "Truth always finds a way, as we knew. He forewarned us." The ambiguity merely stoked conjecture. What were they aware of? Why were they speaking up now? And when did they realize it? The media circus was unstoppable by the 3rd week. According to reports, documentary filmmakers were producing 2 distinct tell-all specials. The Plot Against the Ossouf, a 4-part investigative DOA series, was even hinted at by one streaming service. In fact, the title included his sitcom name, Without Taste. Tell me you wouldn't click it though. This is when things become really spicy. Malcolm's phone and other important pieces of evidence from the scene were vanished from the evidence locker, according to a source inside the Costa Rican Police Department who spoke to an independent journalist. Lost? The air of the tropics disappeared. Unbelievably, that absence occurred the same week that Cosby's legal team traveled to Costa Rica to gather information. It was no longer simply about Cosby or Malcolm at this time. The story had grown into a huge, intricate web involving high-level cover-ups, law enforcement, Hollywood, and offshore money. It was more of a political thriller with a celebrity storyline than a celebrity controversy. The worst part was that an unconfirmed audio recording began making the rounds on encrypted messaging applications. Two men are said to be talking about how to make it appear like an accident and make sure the boss is covered. There are no identities given, but internet users claim that one of the voices is that of a well-known Cosby acquaintance. Although audio specialists have not verified it, it is essentially a signed confession in the eyes of the public. This leads us to the present. Although the case hasn't been formally reopened, it is still very much alive in the media. Cosby's side is still refusing, Malcolm's supporters are still demanding answers, and in order to keep the fire going, a fresh leak appears every week. What comes next then? That's the million-dollar question, or perhaps the $250,000 wire transfer issue in this instance. We might see depositions, subpoenas, and possibly even criminal charges if the Dodge chooses to proceed. If not, the entire matter may disappear, turning into yet another unresolved enigma that the internet will continue to analyze for the next 10 years. In any case, the harm has been done. Already tarnished, Cosby's brand is now associated with one of the most strange, perverse, and morbidly intriguing celebrity conspiracy theories of the past 2 decades. In the meantime, Malcolm's legacy is being reshaped by both his contributions and the mysteries surrounding his passing. You're left wondering, dear viewer, was this the smoking gun or just a flawless Hollywood hoax? Because ultimately, the only thing we can be certain of is that truth is stranger than fiction in scandals such as these. Additionally, occasionally, it's impossible to distinguish between the two. You've heard it all now. There are rumors, leaks, coincidences, and the kind of Hollywood drama that makes you wonder if a group of overeager Netflix writers are secretly writing the script for real life. The money has been followed. The shadows have been traced. We've witnessed the inexplicable accident. The big question still lingers in the air like a bad fragrance, despite everything that has been said. Was the passing of Malcolm-Jamal Warner merely a sad accident? Or did someone with a great deal of power and a great deal to lose write the play's last act? Here's where you can help. Because the truth, or at least the closest approximation we can get to it, comes from those who won't stop talking, regardless of what the official statements say or how many legal teams deliver cease and desist orders. Tell me then, what you think. Was this a cover-up or an accident? Was the FBI leak the beginning or the end of the iceberg? How far would someone like Bill Cosby go to defend his alleged legacy if this was all a setup? Post your hypotheses in the comments section. Tell your pal who believes every celebrity scandal is a part of a larger conspiracy about this. More stories, more late-night wait what moments, and more explosive breakdowns are what you want. The last thing they want is for you to hear. You're aware of what to do. Turn on notifications, hit the like button, and subscribe because the next big revelation is about to happen. You'll want it to be the first to declare, "I knew it," when it drops.